again. Hi.
All right. Well, Megan, do you want to introduce yourself? Because you're going to be talking about microlearning in the nursing and professional development space. I come from a healthcare background, so I'm really looking forward to this. But for those who may not know you, little background.
Absolutely. So my name's Megan Coombs. I currently manage the Nursing Education, Professional Development, and Practice Department at Bassett Medical Center, which is part of Bassett Healthcare Network. Our headquarter, BMC, is really out of Cooperstown, New York, but we span a network greatly just about the size of Connecticut, smack dab in the middle of New York State. So very large network. And Cooperstown, of course, is known for the Baseball Hall of Fame. So a lot of people might know us from that. But we're a wonderful, small, rural organization, healthcare organization that does amazing work. And we're really pushing all boundaries, PTAP accredited. We are going for Magnet this year as well. And so much of this really has education ingrained into everything that we do. So
love it.
Finding new, innovative, efficient ways to get information and education out there to the nursing staff has been a challenge, I think, for every organization. But using the microlearning platform has been really successful for us over the past year.
Healthcare is definitely an animal, to say the least. And that's not, I mean, I've worked in tons of industries and worked with companies in a lot of industries. So it's not that they don't have their own challenges, but healthcare it's an interesting beast, to say the least. So where did this whole journey start with you in terms of, okay, so, hey, we want to, be innovative, or we want to lean towards microlearning? What actually kicked that off?
So it was interesting because I'm a member of the Association for Nursing Professional Development, and I went to their conference last year. In one of the presentations that I had attended, they had used the 7TAPS platform. Okay. Of course, they couldn't say that's the platform that it was, but I did some very sneaky investigative work and was able to figure out what the platform it was that they were presenting on.
Little sleuthing.
And, yeah, a little bit.
And
I'm pretty good at that. And I said immediately, I need to bring this back. So without a doubt, I brought it back. I spoke to my director about it, and I started with the free trial, really got a lot of people excited to use it, played with it. And even in the past year, there's been so many changes and a lot of growth, a lot of additions. So we've really just played with it every day and find new ways to use microlearning to really get information to staff, but also get information from staff. So
now, was there a specific, one follow-up question? So is your background in learning? Is it in nursing, healthcare? Like, what's your background?
So my bachelor's is in nursing. That's BSN from Northeastern. And then my master's is nursing education from Sacred Heart University. And I'm currently in school for my PNP. I'm board certified in nursing professional development and in nursing executive, as well as critical care nursing.
Okay, cool. So you brought the subject matter expertise and the educational background together, and that's what got you into your role. Okay.
That's correct. Yes.
So as you were looking at this microlearning, I'm always curious where the journey starts off with folks. Was there, obviously you saw it, you went, gotta have it, put on your detective hat, did a little Sherlock Holmesing, figured out what it was, and then started digging into it. But was there a specific thing where you went, like, this is where we got to test this out first?
There wasn't a specific moment. It was more just that I started playing with it, had a lot of fun, and thought, this is what we need. Because right now, nursing, healthcare, the shortages, we are all so short-staffed.
Yeah, it's
Nurses
rough.
don't have time to, take a break, to go to the bathroom, to have their lunch, let alone spend time participating in, rounding in services or sitting at a computer for hours on end with, a lengthy online module. They just don't have the time for that. So it was really a challenge to get staff engaged. And sometimes we just need a quick way to get information out there to staff. And so when I was playing with it, I realized, wow, this works. I can send it to staff via text message, via email. We're starting to turn into a Teams organization as well. So I'm anticipating that we'll be doing that as well. But when I realized how convenient it was and the initial positive feedback from the staff was just like through the roof. Like, everybody loved it. It's very tech savvy. It aligns with adult learning. it just made it easy. So we really had a lot of staff get engaged, and the more we played, more people spoke up, said that they liked it. And now it's expanded beyond just the nursing education department. There's several other departments in our organizations that are utilizing microlearning as well.
Well, and I think that's one of the challenges. I mean, again, it's not only limited to healthcare, but when I think about, I mean, again, I'm oversee learning for a large healthcare organization, and it's a unique dynamic in that patient care is kind of their main focus, and it's a very hands-on type thing. So to your point, it's not always easy to go, hey, can you step away and go sit behind the computer and go do this stuff? It's just not the way work happens. And I think as you think about integrating learning into working, I can see where you're faced with that. And then, yeah, the staffing shortages, those are crushing. Now, as you got into this, did you face any resistance? Because I know sometimes when it comes to trying to do something different, our old friend nostalgia and the way things have always been done can kind of creep in, and people go, yeah, I like this, but I also don't know how comfortable I feel. Or worse, it's, yeah, let's experiment with this, but then can we also painfully make everybody go through what we did before too, just so we feel a little bit better about it? Did you run into any of that?
To be honest, I don't feel that we had too much resistance with it. Maybe I can blame it on the nursing turnover and a little bit of the clinical experience scrap, because now what we're finding is that many of the nurses that are working in healthcare in our organization are from, millennial or Gen Z. And so Gen Alpha even is starting to get in. And because of the generational differences, there seems to be a better kind of like an uptick as far as how much everybody really enjoys using technology-driven learning platforms. And so the micro learning, using it on a phone, having the accessibility of it has been really, welcomed throughout the network. I haven't had much pushback at all.
Okay. Well, hey, you know what? Sometimes you just got to capitalize on the windows of opportunities.
Exactly.
And again, some of my greatest innovations over my career have been people were just so distracted with the pain point they were in. You just kind of slipped it in and were like, hey, well, while we're at it. So I think it's great that you did that. I'm curious in terms of, because one of the challenges, and it's not, again, unique to healthcare, but is some of are you using it? Are you taking a microlearning approach to some of the more compliance or regulatory driven stuff? Because I know we're always wrestling with okay, well, we got to deal with this for HIPAA privacy, or we got to deal with this for certain things. Did you have to navigate that, or were you intentional with the use of it where you said, we'll use it for certain parts, not other things? How did you approach that?
That's a really good question, because we're still scratching the surface on everything that we can do with it. And we have certainly provided some education. We had a regulatory accreditation visit where I was able to pull transcripts of the education that had been provided using microlearning. Another thing that we do, because it's hard when we have different transcripts in several different systems. So we're also trying to.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
It is.
It's a nightmare when the regulators come knocking and they're like, hey, we need to see all your data. And you're like, oh, well, that's split across 32 different systems.
So that's something that we've been working on to make sure that everything that we do in microlearning also feeds into our regular full-time learning management system as well. And that way we can track it. We can do reports on it. We can see who's been compliant, who has not been compliant. And that's been really helpful. So although we have used it to some extent for regulatory and accreditation reasons, I do anticipate that we'll be using it more in the future.
Okay. Well, no. And what I like about the honesty in that answer is I think sometimes we can look to things and go, how do we fix it all? And then we get overwhelmed. And then as a result, we don't do anything. And I think what you're getting at is, well, we saw an opportunity. We capitalized on that opportunity. We recognize there's still limitations on how we're using it today. And we'll just keep moving it forward, which I think is the kind of agile, flexible approach we just need to take. I think it's not about perfecting it in round one, because you just won't do it.
Exactly. A little bit of PDSA. We're trying it. We planned it out. We're doing it. And then we're seeing where there's room for improvement and what more can we do. So always making it better.
So looking at the Q&A, because I want to make sure I incorporate some of this stuff too. So, in terms of outcomes and where you're landing on this, what kind of, how have you seen it affect either adoption or whatever you're using to measure success, what does that look like for you and how has that been going?
I'd say that the staff seem to be really engaged. I did send out a quick survey just a few days ago with the staff to kind of get their feedback on it. And, I can actually pull up some of the data.
Oh yeah, by the way, while you're pulling it up for folks, she has a slide deck with lots of great information. And I saw some questions coming in on like, will the recording be shared? All the slides and all this stuff are available after the fact. So if you go, oh wait, it wasn't up long enough, don't worry about it. You'll get access to it later.
All right. So this is just, a quick survey that I did with a few staff, only N of 25, not too many people responded. Again, it was very last minute. But of course, in person is a great way to learn for sure. But as I mentioned, it's not as convenient. It's not as conducive in the nursing or the healthcare environment. And also you have to think about the cost of pulling a nurse off the unit to do some education. Also the cost of putting an educator out there to spend, even if it's 15, 20 minutes with each nurse, each learner, that's going to add up substantially. And so when we were able to look at, the microlearning and seeing that still about, quarter of the participants said that they prefer to use a microlearning platform, that's really positive information as far as I'm concerned. It's certainly second best to something in person, but when you consider the financial impact and just the practicality, the accessibility of doing it, it was definitely a win as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and I think with that too, so sometimes I get branded as the anti-in-person person, which I'm not, but it's one of these things where I'm always looking at it through the business lens of what are all these other factors we have to take into account, lost productivity, cost of resources, all this stuff. And a lot of times there is even just a personal bias to the in-person stuff to say, well, I liked it. And liking it versus it being effective are two separate things. And so if you're getting the bang for your buck out of the microlearning and it's actually driving some of that stuff, absolutely leverage it so that if you're pulling people together in person, you're doing it with purpose and value instead of just going, well, they like it, so we're doing it. It's like, well, maybe we can accomplish this in a better way and then maximize the time. So, and I mean, those are pretty solid stats in terms of where people land.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the last question, because we're coming up on time, these things move quick, is, well, one of them had to do with kind of, so from Larry, he was asking about, how you take your courses, how you did this. So I'm going to generalize that question and answer it or ask it more as, were there any best practices or things that you would share in terms of here's how we approach this, or here's some of the things we did that worked really well for us?
Yeah, I'd say that, again, being very open-minded, trying different things. I just posted some QR codes of 3 different presentations that we've used microlearning for. But just, keeping an open mind and just thinking the sky's the limit, being innovative and listening to the staff. What do they like? What do they not like? Just being flexible has been really some of the key things for us. As I just posted here, providing education, that example is when we were asking nursing staff to do a new procedure of administering Definity at the bedside. And it's something that was typically done by the cardiologist or the cardiology nurse. And so we had to teach them something new to do. So we just had an open mind. A lot of it, you really need to see it. So we tried to add in like short snip videos, actually recorded and converted them into the little GIF or GIF. I don't really know what those files are.
Yeah, careful.
Called.
You'll start a fight in the comments.
Exactly.
So whatever your preference, folks.
So, converted it into that. And I was able to show staff in a very quick format where now if they forget how to do it, they can just go right back to this microlearning where we've got the QR code posted. They can get to it from our online intranet and it's very accessible, which is nice. So in the future, if they forget, they've got that reminder right there with the visuals. So it's really nice because let's be honest, an educator is not always going to be around. Obtaining information has been great too. So again, being really open-minded. In the past, you might interview staff, but sometimes you have to worry about how much are they going to really disclose. So with microlearning, we can also get information. We can have anonymous, polls and surveys of staff, and we can really use that to do a nice gap analysis, and it's very accessible.
So you're doing the combination of the push and pull and getting really creative with what you can do with it. I love
100%.
that.
And then the newest thing that we started doing is even just as simple as med-surg question of the week. So in order to encourage other nursing staff to become certified in their specialty, we can now send out a question, we can time it, we can follow it up with an answer a day later or 2 days later, and then really kind of get some engagement with the nursing staff as far as that goes as well. And hopefully encourage some more certification too.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Megan, I have really enjoyed our conversation. I say all the time, I don't think I could probably have multiple hour conversations with everybody I encounter. So doing this in 20 minutes was tight, but I absolutely loved what you shared. And hopefully everybody else got some great insights based on the comments and the emojis. I definitely think you landed it. And again, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Everybody, can we get a round of emojis for Megan and all of her contributions? This was fantastic. And I so appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join the session and then just hang out up here and have to put up with me for 20 minutes as I grill you with questions and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.